Good day, everyone. All right, let me get this link shared out and we'll get started on the live stream. Give me one moment. Share in the Discord and share on Twitter. All right. Give people a few minutes to get in to the stream. We're going to go over some high time frame ideas. There are some local ideas I'm interested in for longs here that could play into higher time frame ideas. And I'll review how I'm going to trade those. I did take a short up here earlier today. And I'll review that quickly. But we'll give people a few minutes to get in here. XRP trying to break out of along a higher time frame descending structure. Kind of back testing it now. Big impulse here. Man, every level I was interested in a long, a little lower. I had an alert set here coming in, filling some of these wicks. Front run. Even this minor low was front run. I did have an alert set there. Just had a big impulse off it. This low as well. Doge also front ran, taking this wick for a big 25% move up. We were, or 40% move up rather. We were alive here last week, looking for that setup. But anyways, we're gonna focus on Bitcoin primarily into the first half of this live stream. Then we'll look at some alts. Hope everybody had a good weekend. And I'll start diving into things in the next minute or two, just giving people time to click on the live stream and not miss anything. So we're going to start with the higher time frame ideas, and then I'll go into the local setups. I guess first I'll just go over the short I'm in. I'm going to close off some TA here. So on my live stream last week, when we were at the lows, I grabbed some screen grabs from here. When we were down at the 57K region here, I was looking kind of for a range to form and maybe an impulse up, taking these highs that we've now taken. Maybe put in a higher low, and I'll go over some of the concepts there. And maybe then come up and take this high. So we've now taken this high. And here's another screen grab. I just had a few different ideas there. But coming up and taking these highs, this is on the daily chart. Maybe put in a minor high, higher low. And this would lead to maybe some bearish continuation. I'm just going to trade around these levels. There are bullish ideas from here that I want to go over. But here on the 4-hour chart, or we can just look at it on the daily chart, we had all these daily highs to come and take. Wick through them. And so that was a nice local short trigger, targeting into these lows for a TP1. And just in the Discord, last week I had that idea of coming up and taking these highs for a short trigger. I was off the charts completely over the weekend. So I just said trend line being tested now. Personally just going to let weekend price action play out. Then earlier today, just sharing them interested in this short setup. We had some bearish absorption forming locally up at the highs before the move to the downside. So I took that short. We had a nice sell-off, and we're basically here now. But I am interested in a local long setup, but just reviewing the position I'm in currently. And the local long setup I'm interested in is coming and taking these lows that we formed over the weekend. We'll see if we get that or not. But I think they play into some more bullish high time frame ideas. I'm going to be trading everything locally for a TP1. So any long from here, looking for a TP1 up into these local highs. I'll go over that. But let's get into the higher time frame ideas. All right, so let's start on the daily chart. I shared a couple harmonic ideas. The big bullish idea here is holding up this value area low, and let's get rid of this. This value area low, taking these daily candle lows into the 382, reclaiming it, either for a lower high or a major move to the upside. And I think if we got a more bullish idea from here, I might be looking towards something like this cipher harmonic, where we have our X, A, B, targets being around 80K. This would be the bullish thesis, and I'll go into how some of that local PA might look. Ultimately, for a bigger rejection down into this 48K level, taking all these lows at 50K. The good thing about some of the bearish ideas and bullish ideas here, I'll just show the bearish harmonic really quick, is there's a lot of just local levels to trade around, where I think getting the risk out of the trades, taking TP1 is going to be quite reasonable. And so I'm probably going to trade both scenarios. So the bearish scenario could be a wave C coming in here, maybe push a little higher up into these highs for the bullish bat harmonic. So it ends bullishly, and it sends us into these lows down here. It's quite a bearish idea on the mid time frame, down to 42K. We can't really push up much higher for our C leg, or our D leg doesn't make sense for the harmonic. So this region here is really critical for the really bearish idea. And this is a very similar count to what I shared on the live stream for continuation to the downside last week, which would be like an A, B, C, and a move lower. And so the bearish idea here would be that we're putting in an A leg into a B leg, so something like an A, B, C, finishing a higher degree B with a wave C to the downside. And there's some really deep targets as potentials if we get the big extended version of the bat harmonic. So we'd be looking for something like this, a B and a C. And so the levels I'm trading around for shorts are this high that I'm short from now, but I'm looking to take profits here on any sign of strength. I'm looking to actually take a local long setup, which I'll explain. But this will also allow me to trade towards the more bullish scenario of taking the highs and have a short from resistance, a long from support, profits taken on both, and then just let some of the price action develop, seeking more clarity. The other level I'll be interested in shorting is pushing up into these highs, which is now our 618 from high to low. So a nice important fib. So I'm short here, and I'd be interested in shorts up here. I'm already risk off on this short, so I've moved my stop to entry. No reason to take a stop from this short up here. And I might not even take profits on it locally. We'll see what happens at these lows. For the cipher harmonic, the thing here is that even in the bullish scenario, I think we would see similar price action. So watching this value area low as a key region with the confluence of a 382 here. This is another folder, but it's right under all these lows we formed over the weekend. And so for me, the trigger on that long, and I will clean up this chart, the trigger on that long would be a sweep of these lows. There's a 382 and value area low here. This is the local long setup. We'll clean up this chart, but in a reclaim with an tight invalidation either the reclaim holds or it doesn't. Targeting up into these highs is a major idea. And maybe looking to form some structure here, take these highs, I'd take this short, and I could still get profits off of it into a retest of these levels and hold the rest for the bearish scenario. So if we look at this, there's sort of I think there's some overlapping structure where this could lead to a more bearish outcome or a more bullish outcome, but I can still find my longs locally, shorts locally, longs locally, and just take profit and remove the risk from those trades. And just wait for some more clarity. I think ultimately we have really simple structures here to trade around, which is these daily candle lows. Just taking these, nice liquidity idea. If we break this down, there's some ideas of coming into our range lows as well, which aligns with our golden pocket of the move. So this is a key local level to see what happens here for a potential long setup locally. If we break this down, I'll have structure here until this is reclaimed, just looking for a retest of the range lows as the next idea. And ideally would just be still carrying some of this short or all of it if price is coming down and testing this level. But the critical idea here locally is what happens as price comes and tests these lows. I wouldn't mind seeing something like this. We just opened a new 4-hour candle. Something like this, a retest of this high, and then a move down into these lows. We're forming a little parallel structure here. Have a little triple top locally, come down, take these lows, and then come back and retest this liquidity. But really just interested in trading around the major daily structures personally, which for me is longs taking these lows and reclaiming them, or shorts taking these highs, which I'm in, and shorts around these highs. Do you want to set some alerts here on XRP? I want to think a little bit about this. There are some really high time frame bullish ideas I covered in last week's live stream as well. Just want to re-pull these because this is now our 618. This is the daily chart, XRP versus Bitcoin, just grinding down. I mentioned it wouldn't be crazy to imagine a big breakout and impulse against Bitcoin. So keeping an eye on XRP for sure, and certainly showing some relative strength against Bitcoin here. Yeah, so a question about order flow, which is order flow still giving you a bullish bias within this range? Yeah, I would argue that the higher time frame order flow within the context of this range is bullish. So I'll just review that really quickly. And that question might be asked with some degree of ironicness. But anyways, first I'll just say up here when we took these highs earlier today, the clean short trigger from an order flow perspective was here. We had these big high delta impulses, tons of open interest, our big open interest decrease, 9.6 million positive delta at the highs, followed by some bearish absorption as we start ranging here. So this is what I was pointing out earlier in the Discord that I referenced earlier in the live stream. So a nice clean short trigger with the sweep of those daily highs, the rejection and the bearish absorption, and then the sell-off. And then we even had a 10 million positive delta 5-minute candle, big increase in open interest, get completely absorbed here. So a nice idea for even seeing lower. So now we're just kind of chopping to the downside, coming and taking these highs locally. I mean, that might be a nice scalp short setup, frankly. We have some longs starting to come in here. This local low here, 11 million delta on the downside. So nice reaction off that high delta candle for scalping. Certainly something you'd want to look out for local long setups on the lowest of time frames. Just trading around the high delta candles. So, but yeah, as far as the high time frame order flow goes, let's just go to the 15-minute chart here. I would just say that in the context of this range, it still is bullish to me, even after seeing that 55K low. Because the reality is, we didn't actually wipe out that many longs. In these 15-minute candles into the lows here, all the longs that have been absorbing all the selling pressure, I'll kind of go over that briefly in a moment, weren't wrecked. This is just almost looks like another liquidity grab. There's actually a surprisingly low amount of delta into these 55K lows and surprisingly low amount of volume, frankly. You would have just thought that taking these lows would have produced more volume, more delta. And so in theory, the longs that have been building up here are just adding here. The big traders absorbing all of this. And the whole context here is still, from my view, bullish across this range. And I'd say there's a slight edge, probably even a moderate edge to the bullish ideas out of this range. Even here, arguably, order flow is just bullish across this range as well. So I'm definitely going to be interested in taking longs off these local lows if we get them. And if not, I'll have to look for other setups. But I like this idea for a potential spring and move to the upside. And, you know, whether or not taking profits, there's a risk reward to everything. Whether or not you want to look to take profits on setups like that locally. So if the setup looks like this, reclaiming these lows, remove some risk, these local highs, and could always look to add back on a retest and hold the rest for the bigger move to the upside, or just want to hold the whole thing. But certainly interested in that trigger. We do have a bullish divergence forming locally here, but at the very least, I mean, I was looking at this as that low came in. Let me just go to the daily chart here. Get rid of this. We know the value area low is around there. Even taking this daily candle low, we just front ran it a little bit. So we have 1, 2. Be nice to take at least this, but there's way more technical ideas to come in and tap this 382. So I think it will be maybe relatively straightforward to trade the bullish and bearish ideas together. And later today, if we tap this level, be some confluence here with the back test of this trend line. Yeah, I definitely want to keep an eye on XRP here. Might be interested to see where it's at when Bitcoin, if Bitcoin takes these lows, and try a long on XRP as well. We had bullish absorption forming here as well, coming into the weekend. And this reclaim of the range lows. We'll see what happens here. Just thinking for a second. I mean, XRP just looks so strong. The big bullish idea on XRP is compliments of X-Force Global, which is a multi-year triangle potential breakout. And he's targeting up towards $8 for that move. Obviously, people are quite disillusioned with XRP, and lots of people who've been holding for years are throwing in the towel. But we could imagine some very bullish scenarios on XRP. Just looking at the daily chart here, XRP versus Bitcoin, just grinding down for months and months and months and months against Bitcoin. Now just starting to break out of that downtrend, depending on how you draw it. But it would be reminiscent of some of this stuff, right? And XRP has certainly demonstrated its ability to have really strong moves against Bitcoin. So we'll see. There's even ideas here of just trading this as a breakout. You have the trend line reclaim. Just taking some local setups here. Holding for strength. Put on a bit of risk. The live streams have been, a couple weeks ago they were kind of laggy. So if there's any issues, just let me know. Hopefully that issue's fixed. Let's just mark out the simple structures here. You can get all into the nitty-gritty with potential Elliott wave structures and harmonics and different things like that, but we have lows that were swept and reclaimed. We have a series of daily highs that were swept. We have these daily highs, which are quite important. It's another low wick here. Then we have our range highs. It's hard to say that it's not quite bullish if Bitcoin gets back above this level and is holding it as support. And why not just be looking for the all-time highs to be taken again? Well, price is trading below these levels. I think that puts a lot of the bear scenarios on the table, the locally bear scenarios. Still, I think there's no reason at this point, not to say you can't take shorts, to consider a major high is in and we're going back into a bear market, into the 20K lows. I think the deepest targets are in this region and that are reasonable. And I think it's most likely that we're still forming a wave 4. It's possible the wave 4 is in. But I think it's more likely that we're still forming it. I guess I didn't go over the cipher harmonic higher time frame Elliott wave count, which would be that even this, because it ends bullishly, the D leg is bullish. So the Elliott wave idea for that would be that we put in a B C to complete our wave 4 and finish as a wave 5. But yeah, like I said, I think it's going to be pretty straightforward to validate or invalidate the bearish and bullish scenarios. Just all these simple horizontal structures, which align very well with key fibs. We have our 618 right above these highs. The short setup I was interested in before was taking these highs before the big move to the downside, which we didn't get. Come up and take these highs, which we front ran. But now that we've put in a new low, these highs are our 618. And this is where I'll be interested in shorts if we push higher. Claiming this level, I'm really not interested in shorting anything below all-time highs. And then from the bullish scenario locally, we have two really clean fib ideas with our volume profile. I already went over this, but I'm just going to re-pull everything. The value area low aligned with our 382, which would be quite a bullish continuation idea, aligned perfectly with the sweep of the daily candles. The trade setup, in my view, is just quite easy to take. It either works or it doesn't, but you just have a sweep and a reclaim of those lows into the 382 and validation below that new low, the trigger being the reclaim. And if we break down, you have our 618 aligned with all our range lows. So two levels to the downside for longs at support, and these levels for shorts at resistance. And anything trading above this just looks bullish for all-time highs. So structures are quite simple, and I think they align quite well with some of the more complicated technical ideas that you could be looking at. Just a lot of front running happening for me on XRP. It's kind of been annoying. I got front ran on this wick. I got front ran on this wick just barely. And the ideas are quite bullish here, bouncing from this triangle retest. So you might have to try some more aggressive ideas. The risk reward is quite compelling. And like I said, I had even just looked at these lows because it also is just a nice clean technical retracement. And we front ran this wick as well just now. So now we're breaking out and quite strong against Bitcoin. Yeah, this is definitely where I would be considering some more aggressive tries and even just put on a bit of risk. Nothing crazy. Maybe see if we can form a little range here. Take these lows for a local setup. Yeah. I'm going to set an alert here. Just see how some of this local price action shapes up. Maybe we'll even turn this into an XRP scalping live stream and try to scalp into some swing longs. And of course, if you're not an experienced trader, it's not a good idea to be taking trades with live funds. Never trade an idea that you don't understand. This is just for educational purposes. You even can throw on like half an hour risk. I mean, if, say for example, if some of this strength continues and some of those really high time frame bullish ideas to $8 start playing out, this is the big log scale triangle for a fifth wave to $8. Even at half an hour risk, some of these aggressive entries, just trading towards the more super bullish scenarios, something like this is like a $400 trade. Not super likely that it holds, but how likely does it have to be at $400 with half an hour risk? I mean, you could call it like $700 or $800 if you take the full risk. But anyways, the whole thesis here, the reason I'm so interested in it, is because from this low, if this, let me just go here. Do I have this pulled up? I don't even think I have the Elliott wave count on here. But the whole thesis is that price action, we should start seeing really bullish price action from XRP, especially relative to Bitcoin, from the retest of this triangle low. And if we don't, then the idea is kind of it's either going to work or it's invalid. And now we're just seeing a really strong XRP from here. So it's just the early signs of this much more bullish idea. So definitely want to be looking personally to put on some risk on XRP. Should just draw this as a ray, because I might have had this trend line. It's going to be a little bit different depending on the if you're on log scale or not. If I get it to snap to this wick. So it's testing the log scale trend line there. Just thinking about this for a second. Let's be aware of a big point of control here. Aligned with our GP. Just be aware of all our major resistance. This is the GP resistance from this high to this low. We've whipped through it once, testing it again. It's a little suspicious to be looking for longs here, frankly. But price does break out. Price grinding down into these lows. The ideal scenario would be to take the long in conjunction with the Bitcoin setup, taking these range lows if we get it. I'll look at that really quick. Yeah, Gerard saying he shared in the Discord that the XRP low tapped the 786 here. What does the 30-second chart look like? No, it's pretty clean here. So yeah, let's start looking at some of this internal structure that's forming here. Impulse low. Retest of these highs. Trendline breakout. Strong against Bitcoin. A little bit of a descending structure forming here. A lot of volume up above. I think not trading the initial impulse here is probably the way to go. And just look for a bit of a range to form. And then trade a retracement for the swing ideas. Ideally, at least taking these lows. Doge front run this daily candle low as well. But yeah, in theory, we should see some correlation with Bitcoin here if we take these lows on Bitcoin. And it's not uncommon for alts to move relatively the same timing as Bitcoin in terms of the timing of impulses or pivot lows and pivot highs. Going to look at Bitcoin's order flow here as well. Some bearish absorption happening here for sure locally on Bitcoin. Just at the local highs. Some aggressive longs coming in. Yeah, so if we're going to get another move to the downside, which looks more likely on Bitcoin, probably look for something similar here on XRP. May not even end up taking any scalps on XRP, but like I said, let's just, maybe over the next 30 minutes, I'll be live, and let's just look at how some of this low time frame structure forms into this big impulse. From a scalping perspective, coming and taking these lows. This is the 30-second chart, by the way. Nice reactive idea. The GP is just pulled from the impulse low. Very similar ideas that I would use on higher time frame charts. Forming a range here. TP1 into the highs here and hold the rest as a potential swing, and just rinse and repeat. Something like this as a scalp 6R setup. Just looking for a clean reaction. If there is none, then, but you know, if you're scalping this time frame, you might end up taking 6 or 7 trades here. Try to keep the risk reward quite clean. 4-1 to 6-1 is quite nice. Win some, lose some. Could even take the short as a hedge as well. Just kind of grindy price action on the lowest of time frames here. Just reading through, I think I went over most of the comments. But there's no such thing as a good trade idea. This is a phrase I use often, without risk management. You know, if you don't understand the probabilistic nature of the market, you think that there's ever a good reason to go all in. There really isn't. Once you are a competent, experienced trader, you've done paper trading, maybe you've moved up to trading with a small amount of money, you've built a track record, somewhere around a 1% of your trading account per trade as risk is where you want to be. But you know, this would be, for any LATF members, it's the same ideas that I would trade on a higher time frame. This would be quite a familiar setup. You have some local lows here. We've already reacted from them once, took this little wick low for another move to the upside. We do have to be aware that a major 618 is right above us, and that's why probably need to treat the first leg of these as scalps and then remove the risk and just see if we can hold for a bigger move to the upside. Ideally looking for a decent flush in volume here. Jonathan's asking, what are some resources to adopt the probabilistic mindset? Well, I would certainly recommend everything from Mark Douglas. I mean, that's a huge component of what he teaches, and really breaks down the psychology of really embracing the probabilistic mindset and not just thinking that, like, you can know that the market is a game of probabilities without actually acting as though it was true, right? But yeah, Gerard suggested paper trading, and that is true. Put on a bunch of trades, and just kind of let the risk reward, asymmetric risk reward, risk management play out. There comes some selling pressure on Bitcoin. Maybe see this little bearish divergence play out into another move to the downside. Coincide with the XRP idea, maybe. Again, using the same ideas I'd use on a high time frame on this 30-second chart, you'd be surprised how relevant things like this ascending structure can be. Local fib retracement, sweeping local lows, even on the lowest of time frames. So this little ascending structure could become relevant for this local move to the downside if we get one, maybe bounce from that. And for me, when I'm scalping, you're essentially in this trade. For example, let's just say I'd scalp short here. You're in the trade, and if it's not just moving in your favor, you're essentially cutting it. Your invalidation is super close because it's based on local structure. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to size it to take a 1% loss here. You could size it a little bit wider. You're planning on, in this case, maybe holding for a bigger move to the upside for a potential swing trade. But the essential idea here is that on this time frame, you're in this trade and you're out of it very quickly if this level's not holding, and you may re-enter, but you should see price moving in your favor immediately off an entry like that. So for me, it's just no hesitation to either enter or cut the position, and always having a hard stop in place because price could react and then just nuke, right? You don't want to get stuck. I mean, there's no such thing as getting stuck in a trade if you're managing it properly. You can certainly take a loss quickly, but you don't want to get stuck in a long up here because you think price certainly is going to bounce, and you've turned a scalp into a deep underwater trade at the highs. A scalp breakout long into a deep underwater trade at the highs. See if we get a trigger here. If it interacts with this trend line into a sweep of these lows, into this maybe a little bit of a suspicious 618 here off the impulse low, but it should come pretty quickly. over the next 10 minutes or so. Either now or... But once we get around here, that confluence of the trend line isn't there anymore. We can just note that here on Bitcoin, on this lowest of time frames, there's some selling pressure coming in, a local downtrend. XRP showing even a little bit of strength relative to Bitcoin here. It's not super dramatic. Obviously, this is quite a dramatic sign of strength, but a little bit of strength locally as well against Bitcoin. Bitcoin with some bearish absorption up here. And the long trigger on XRP might actually come with this long setup on Bitcoin, which I need to be prepared to take. It's about the same distance, 1.5% move to the downside. Typically, alts move when Bitcoin has a move to the downside. Alts have a bigger move relative to Bitcoin. They're more volatile. Same with moves to the upside. A 20% move to the downside usually is a 50% move on a lot of alts. But something like an equivalent move here locally on XRP, which is about 1.5% into this low on Bitcoin, could make a lot of sense given how strong Bitcoin is, or sorry, XRP is relative to Bitcoin here. Hopefully that makes sense. Some local structures. We'll just see. I wasn't planning on taking any trades up here on XRP, obviously, when I planned to do a live stream, because I didn't know that this was going to happen. But now that it has happened, it's something I am interested in trying to trade around. So that's why the topic of the live stream is getting diverted a little bit here. Of course, it'd be a little annoying if we just had a big breakout without that trigger. But even if that's the case, then for me it's just going to be finding a new local setup. But I like how this is looking against Bitcoin right now. So I might be much more focused on executing some trades here. A new 1 hour candle opening in 3 minutes. gonna hide this for a second. You could claim there's some pretty important horizontal levels here as well. Be kind of a reclaim of these. We kind of retested this wick high, coming and retesting it again. So on the higher time frames, gonna have to update the Discord as well as Bitcoin approaches a key level. I always forget to do that on live streams, but I won't forget here. Personally, I'll be cutting this pretty quickly if it's not working. Do you think we'll get a retest of the range pick on the daily time frame? The range low? I don't know. I think there's actually some kind of nice ideas here locally. Front running this, and we will have a bullish divergence formed here on this time frame, so we'll see. Right now I'm just focused on the level that's in front of me, and I am in shorts from the highs from this wick, so you know, we'll see what happens here. We either break down or we don't, and of course we could come reclaim this and range and then break down later. But again, we're seeing some of that local strength against Bitcoin here on the lowest of time frames for XRP. This is the level I shared earlier I'd be interested in for a long on Bitcoin, the Discord. Both my TP1 for this short, taking these lows, and the level of interest for a long. And I made a brief video earlier today explaining some of those concepts or the ideas, but I may have to update that idea soon. So there's our local 618. Ideally, we can see a retracement from here. May not get one. Starts to look a little bit more unlikely as we start claiming some of this, forming kind of bullish, grindy structure here. Looks quite bullish locally if we break out of this retracement. Just doing some thinking. Obviously, if price just starts running away, this isn't really the style I like to trade, which is just either get strong continuation, you just cut the long immediately if there's no continuation. My ideal scenario on these breakouts, even on the lower time frames, is always to trade into retracements to local support. Because even this is a 2% range that's forming. 2.3%. But it is looking much less likely now that we're going to get that. But we'll see what happens here at the range highs. But obviously price can just impulse very quickly through these highs if we break out. But for now it is resistance, range highs again. I would say that this is a locally bullish structure on the 30-second chart, the grindy uptrend. Still range bound though, for at least a few more seconds. A really quick move to the downside here would be nice. Still gives us that trend line potentially, but it'd have to happen in a couple minutes. Need to grab that. But yeah, personally, I wouldn't be interested in shorting this on XRP. Like even if I'm scalping here, it's just looks too strong. It's quite tempting for the breakout long if you don't reject from these range highs. But the reason I'd be really hesitant to take these types of trades, I mean really any type of trade, if you're not an experienced trader, you're just understanding that on this idea, the way you're managing your risk is you might trade 4 or 5 longs in this local range at slight profit, at break even, at slight loss, and you're essentially cutting these trades on the lowest of time frames and managing your risk accordingly. You know that you're going to be taking a bunch of different setups and understanding you're not taking this trade because you think price will break out. In fact, it's probably more likely than not that it doesn't. But there are some ideas here, certainly, of longing into resistance. You're just looking for this liquidity to be tested and price to either impulse and keep going, or just cutting if there's no immediate follow through. Price trading above the highs for now. Testing that liquidity, but very easy to just form a range here. But you'd really want to see this bullish structure on the lowest of time frames for the most bullish ideas just hold into another impulse to the upside. And again, we are breaking out of some higher time frame descending structure on XRP. We have retested this as support. And so the ideas for the bullish moves, just strong continuation. This Bitcoin daily chart breaking out, or XRP Bitcoin daily chart breaking out of some descending structure, about to test some of its horizontal highs. You can see here on the 1 minute chart how bullish this looks up into resistance. It's really just rounded, grindy structure. I like to use the phrase rounded because you'll see this on different time frames, but you can see it just has this rounded, impulsive look to it. I can't say. Someone says, Always says, did you take the breakout long? No. That is for me to know and you to find out, I guess. No, I want to be really careful about. I didn't think that I would be doing any of this on this live stream. These types of setups are very rare that I would ever trade something like this. Like, this is just so circumstantial. If you've been in the Discord for a long time, it's just never a trade that I would be taking. But for a scalp entry and just cutting immediately if no follow through, it kind of looks okay. I mean, I can explain the logic of getting long, but I may or may not have a 6-figure plus position. But again, need to be really careful here because, I mean, you're careful just based on risk management, but this is resistance. Like, the only reason I'd ever be in a trade like this is just immediate continuation and impulse to the upside. As soon as we started trading above this locally, sort of like, where's price going to go, right? But you can see how in this scenario, I mean, trading this way is going to put you into a lot more losses than wins, typically, if you're not super experienced, because it can start looking like this, can start looking, all of these would start looking like this, but when you compare them side by side, you can see how different this looks than this. But when you don't have them side by side, you could start thinking, oh, price is grinding up and it's breaking out. And you find yourself scalping into longs at the highs over and over again to get 2% moves to the downside, Whereas this, I'd already be cutting risk out of this. No reason to take a stop. The whole idea would just be continuation. But yeah, this is a pretty rare case where I'd be willing to start looking for longs into this move. And some of it is based on higher time frame thesis. But of course, right before I get live, we just have this huge impulse on XRP. But I think the idea is kind of clear here. I mean, we can see just price being lifted. Invalidation can be, doesn't mean you have to put on full risk, right? Invalidation is just no strong continuation. You could risk 0.025 R and just looking for a strong continuation. Do I even have this high mark? No. Do have a high right here that we need to watch out for as well. I can move these alerts just in case I'm tabbed back around. And again, trading into these impulsive moves, how often is this going to get you into trouble if you're not managing this trade on the lowest of time frames for strong continuation? Well, you're going to find yourself over and over again longing moves like this. It's not hard to imagine how this could turn into something like this quite quickly. Longing these impulses, these breakouts, just does not end well. So even if XRP breaks out here, the reason I want to be really careful about how I present this idea is this type of trade is almost never a good idea. I mean, just go look at the chart history. You're basically longing all of these ideas. So the trade needs to be working immediately. And so what I mean by I want to be careful about how I present this is anyone watching this could be like, oh, wow, this is so easy. You just long as price is going up to the highs and impulsing, and if price goes straight up here, then you think, well, I'll just look for that. The vast majority of the time, this does not work well, and it's not a good way to trade. But there is just a rare circumstance here, like I said, so. Doge had something very similar on the lowest of time frames up here. Can look at that really quickly. Didn't end with a huge move to the upside. Let's just go to the 5-minute. But price grinding up with this rounded structure into a big impulse to the upside. We ended up rejecting from these highs, but this rounded grindy structure on the 5-minute, especially here, ending in an impulse. And so could it make sense to be looking, a 10-11% move for breakout longs into a structure like this? Because this was also breaking out of this high, which we double topped. So we double topped the high, and then we have this rounded grindy structure into a big impulse there. But these types of ideas can turn south pretty quick. look really quick. Yeah, you're saying there's a good short level up above on XRP. Yeah, I don't disagree. There is a, if we break out of these highs, there is a major level up here. But again, I'm not particularly interested in getting short XRP here. Up above. But I think it's going to be a really reactive level. I mean, probably if that happens, like if we get a super impulsive move, even now on this live stream, might look for that short trigger. Just take the trade. High volume area there. Come up and take some of these daily highs, retest this wick. I mean, this would be a highly reactive level, no doubt. You know, short into a retest of these highs. This also might just be a nice level to look for a long later after an impulse. Come and retest the level. Yeah, I pointed that out a little earlier in the live stream, that being aware of that resistance overhead. Minor GP here, major up here, major point of control. No structure here, so I mean we could imagine a breakout at least through this section of the chart. Price moving very quickly through this level, this area of the chart. About 9% away. Even for me, I could maybe TP there. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of an interesting situation because, like I said, I almost would never be sharing a trade idea of longing up here for all the reasons that I have already described. So I don't really want this to be I really just think taking trades like this reliably with an edge requires a lot of experience, and you really don't even know where to begin to explain why you would long this, but you wouldn't long this and this and this and this. But again, really want to just see this continue. This uptrend hold for another impulse, even coming back into these lows starts looking a little suspicious. Still might have the quick move to the downside, which I'd be interested in still. Little ascending structure here holding locally. So this is where things can get a little bit trappy, right, for the breakout trade, which is this doesn't hold, and then price just breaks down here. But yeah, ideally just want to see price moving away from this breakout quite continuously and quickly. Start trading up into this void up here. Otherwise, need to start looking again for these lows. But we can see the relative strength on XRP continuing against Bitcoin without a doubt. But yeah, I'm just interested in these lows getting taken on Bitcoin. It's hard to imagine XRP doesn't see a deep retracement if we get this on Bitcoin as well. But we'll see. Who knows? I mean, you could argue that XRP and Bitcoin aren't exactly correlated throughout this whole bull market, and right now XRP is threatening quite a big breakout against Bitcoin. It's always possible. It'd be the first time that an alt moves to the upside while Bitcoin moves to the downside. It's always possible that Bitcoin doesn't take those lows. But yeah, this, I mean, looks okay. We'll see. We can kind of look at how, if we do get another impulse to the upside, just keep looking at how some of that low time frame structure might continue to appear quite bullish. And definitely want to have this wick marked out. That's a major idea, to just take this and then have a rejection. Probably a very reactive level. Could either be reactive for a move to the downside or reactive just for a strong breakout. But I just want to make this super clear. There's no guarantee we're even going to take this high. That something that can happen here is just a front run. People longing into that breakout, getting wrecked, and then you have the move. So any signs of weakness here, I think, need to be taken seriously on a lower time frame. And this setup, to me, starts looking quite good if we have a sweep into these lows. And be a very, very nice confluence with Bitcoin. So I already think that this sign of weakness should start being taken. You should start to take it seriously if you're looking for a breakout. Still, price is technically breaking out of its local highs here and impulsing off this grinding structure. But doesn't take much for this to happen. And you're really on a breakout trade here. You're basically just in it for strong continuation, and whether you're cutting at break, in my view, you're cutting at break even, slight win, that's fine too. You can always get back in if you get a clean setup. But this setup, in my view, is only, for me, only something I'd be interested in if we see the strong continuation. I'd rather just cut it and get back in somewhere else if we don't see that. Now, there's other ways to trade this, of course, right? Like, I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong or anything wrong with just taking it as a wide breakout, a stop below these lows, and just letting it run and sizing it a lot smaller. Your stop 4 or 5% away, and you're sizing a lot smaller. But that's not how I personally would look to trade this. You know, everybody wants to scalp ideas like this on the lowest time frames. Somebody's saying, can I take a look at Bitcoin? Where is that question I saw earlier? Someone says, possible to have a quick look at Bitcoin, keeps rejecting low time frame, local GP. Maybe I already answered this. I don't even remember, but yeah, I'm not really interested. I mean, I'm short from up here on Bitcoin, and I'm interested in longs down here. But yeah, I think a little less interesting for me to really care what's happening here on Bitcoin. Just in this choppy downtrend, makes sense to me to see this move to take these lows as the first major level to test for a potential long setup. But definitely wouldn't be surprised that there's a local GP here and price is following some technical structures on the low time frame, technical retracements. GP high to low, GP high to low, contracting price action to the downside. But not trading Bitcoin on that time frame at the moment. I wonder if this is a, it's not quite a clean trend line there. So XRP coming in for technically the retest here, but not the type of price action you like to see necessarily for a breakout. Like I said, this is really just something where you're either, in my view, you're either in the trade for quick continuation and you're just out on signs of weakness. Just look to get in somewhere else. And the same would be if I'm going to take a long down here on a test of this. I might get in, and if there's no follow through, price starts breaking down, I'm out of that trade and just looking to trade back on the higher time frames. We're gonna have to keep an eye on Bitcoin here as well as we approach a major level. So again, we have the value area low here, the 382, taking these daily candle lows is the idea on Bitcoin. Also potential take profit. We see kind of this rounded grindy structure on the 30-minute chart forming here. Quite bearish. More likely to end to an impulse. Here I'd like to just see a massive high volume, high delta wick, maybe some shorts coming in here. I'm looking for a long on a sign of strength. Running this a little wider can make sense for sizing. But ideally just wanting to see some continuation after a reclaim. I'm not going to be looking at many other alts right now because I'm probably about to be taking some trades here. And for me, if price just breaks down, no reclaim, I'm holding my shorts from up here. And I'm not taking the long. Start looking into some of these lows. But there's no reason to take a trade if you don't feel like there's a clean trigger. And just because there is a clean trigger does not mean that there's not that the trade's going to work, right? Let's just get rid of some of this. So this is where, you know, earlier in the Discord, I explained that I was taking this short and why, that I entered that short, that my target was down into these lows, that I was preparing to take this long on a sweep and a reclaim here. And where I would look to TP1 locally. I am going to prioritize Bitcoin here. That's my main focus. But I'll probably be looking to put on some risk on XRP as well. Of course, it's always possible that we just keep ranging here. Take the lows later, but these moves can also be quite impulsive and come quickly. We do have a daily candle low here that could be reactive as well. Front run the level, form a more prolonged range, but we'll see. Just being patient, sitting in the short, waiting for the long. And so for me, I actually ended up about $1,900 on this XRP long. Just cutting on the first sign of weakness. A little bit above entry, but just cutting that small win. And I can just re-enter down here if I get a trigger. But in my view, no reason to turn a trade like this into a loss. You have a 2.5% breakout and just a clear sign of weakness. This uptrend not holding. Can always get back in, but it doesn't look so good to hold as this starts breaking down. And so like one of the things that can get you in a lot of trouble, especially even like this style of trading with trying to scalp into either these lows or a breakout, is not being willing just to cut an idea or cut a position if it's not working. You can always get back in, but if you're seeing something that you don't like and you're trading on the 30-second time frame, you have to be willing to just get out of that trade. It doesn't matter if you wanted to make X off of it or you think, what if price just keeps going up? You have to be really decisive. Come move this alert up a little bit. But yeah, this is one of those scenarios where you could possibly have a bunch of ideas that all get hit at the same time. It's always possible that we get a big bearish move on Bitcoin and alts, right? Like at a 43% rally over the weekend on Doge. And it's always possible we just break down all this structure. Really, if we lose this, kind of retest this wick and we don't reclaim it, not hard to imagine price just moving through this area of the chart, which would coincide with the bigger move to the range lows of Bitcoin, which I still think is on the table. And the ideal scenario for me would be not to if I don't get a trigger here and price just breaks down, well, then I'm not in a long. The long is one, some nice clear order flow, a reclaim, some signs of strength. If we just nuke here, I'm just looking for these range lows. Potentially this level, it's you could call this the impulse low GP, and there's some nice wicks here. I'd be open to both. Can see a little bit of here on the order flow. Some aggressive longs coming in at the highs, 3 million positive delta, 2.9 million positive delta, increase in open interest on both. A little bit of a bearish divergence locally, and these longs up on this top of the impulse here getting wrecked again. This can always turn into a range as well. Again, you'd be surprised that some of these low time frame structures can be quite relevant. Like, I mean, here we're testing, you could say, the origin of the impulse, the lows here. A decent high volume wick here on the 30-second chart. You can measure it against the high volume wick up at the highs and some of these high volume wicks. But this descending structure on the 30-second time frame is quite relevant. This is just signs of selling pressure being put on price here, pushing price lower, testing the trend line now. And so on the lowest of time frames, I would be wary of this even if you're scalping. So about to come test some lows here. I do want to have some of these retracements on my chart. Just this impulse low. Looking for this liquidity to be grabbed. It's quite a strong scalp idea. I mean, it's a strong idea in terms of risk reward. Even look to take profits up into the highs here again. Or just cut the trade immediately if it's not working. Ascending structure, not holding on this lowest of time frame. Horizontal structure is about to be tested. Not a lot of structure here on ETH either. This is the 4-hour chart. If these lows don't get reclaimed, you could imagine price coming down into this GP, into this impulse low. So either a sign of strength would be a reclaim or waiting for this level down here. But I'm probably not going to be able to trade everything I have charted. Will be interesting to see what order flow looks like down here. I could imagine a decent amount of volume and negative delta into these lows. It'd be nice to see some very aggressive shorting. But depending on how much selling pressure we see here, it's not particularly unlikely that we're going to see a bullish divergence against this impulse low. We get some bullish divergences coming in to test some of these highs, into these impulses, and across these lows. Let me just actually measure how much delta we would need here to cause a technical bullish divergence. We need about 20 million delta. 10 million. Be quite a bit. We'll see. We'll see what's under these lows, but if we take them at all, of course. But yeah, personally, I'd be a little wary of longing into, let's put levels aside here and just say like this structure, right? This grindy downtrend structure likes to typically end in an impulse, but you know, if you have ideas here, obviously trade your own ideas. That's just my thoughts. I don't know what's going to happen. XRP again showing a little bit of local strength. Testing some ascending structure. But I'm not going to be longing something like this. Just let some more structure form. As Bitcoin comes into its range lows. I also need to take a leak, but Someone asking, a member in the Discord, Kyson, asking, did you try the footprint in TPO on TradingView? Yeah, I've looked at it. Definitely some discrepancies against EXO that were pretty significant. So I don't know. I mean, it's still in beta. Personally, I haven't spent a lot of time looking at it and probably won't be relying on it. But I'll probably take another look at it in the coming days and weeks. But that's here, and go to the volume footprints and the TPO here. It's been a long time coming for TradingView to implement those, but again, I'm not sure how accurate they are at the moment. Got Bitcoin order flow up on the other chart. Or sorry, on my other screen. Just see what happens here. A little bit positive delta coming in. Price double bottoming locally. Here. Call it a triple bottom. But, you know, in these cases, I'm really just looking for this liquidity to be taken. Either definitely these lows, but probably both of these lows. I actually am going to take a quick leak. Guess we could be here for a few minutes. All right, I'm back. I'm gonna get rid of this trending structure. I mean, you could technically call this a trend line break and a retest here. And we're kind of chopping around this structure, but mostly breaking it down. For me, I prefer just clean interactions on these trending low time frame structures. Otherwise, I sort of like to scrap those trend lines. Like something like this on the lowest of time frame, even leading into this impulse. Had I been watching Bitcoin or XRP on this, kind of looks nice for a similar idea as this for the big impulse. But again, I like to keep it on my chart once it gets a little messy. Let's call this a region, but yeah, this is, like, for me, not somewhere I'd like to look for longs. Price is rejected from the breakout. We have a choppy range forming. It's kind of just above the range lows. And you really just have to accept that anything's possible. Something like this, a quick move through these lows and reclaim, could be a nice quick scalp long entry. But otherwise, just waiting for something compelling. And just being happy to miss the move, because there's just no reason, in my view. Well, I don't have a technical structure here, technical reason for taking this as a long now. But that changes really quickly just running these lows. And Bitcoin, another reaction here. Some shorts close into the lows. Kind of forming a descending trend line. Series of GP retracements. And this might even be a GP as well. So it's just high to low, 618, high to low, 618, and maybe high to low 618, all into a descending trending structure. Always possible that we never take these lows, as we do technically have a bullish divergence forming against the lows right below us. But yeah, so typically, trading these levels, I mean, kind of have to see on live stream, having alerts down at these lows, and if price is moving away from the level of interest, I don't necessarily think that there's any reason to sit and watch price action. I mean, it's unlikely, for example, that maybe we range here, but that price is going to sit and hover at this level for 4 hours. We're either going to take it or we're not. And so as price approaches the level, you could come check and see if there's a breakdown. If not, just come back if your alert gets hit to the chart. But for this Bitcoin trade, I wouldn't necessarily think it's important to watch what's happening here on the 5-minute chart. You just want to be prepared if you're interested in trading this level to the downside as price approaches these lows, for the quick move to the downside and for a long setup. I'm not going to go share them right now, but there's a lot of examples. Like, let me clean up this chart a little bit. Let me get rid of some of this. Having something like a big impulse and then a quick move into the 618 of the impulse for continuation is actually quite an okay idea. So that would be something that's more in line with what I would be more likely to trade for a quote-unquote breakout. Look for the initial impulse and then look for a long on the retracement. And here you have the low time frame structure to base the trade around. All right, well, I mean, I wouldn't mind being live for a move through these lows, but I also would mind sitting on this live stream for another 2 hours waiting for it. So we have a new hourly candle opening right now. We're 2 hours into our last 4-hour candle. And if we don't take these lows in the next 10 minutes, I might just end the live stream. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a more concise video on my higher time frame ideas I talked about earlier in the live stream. Still, this grinding rounded structure still holding into the lows. You know, if we were looking for a breakout long, for example, or for continuation to the upside, if this was we inverse the chart here, we can see this grinding into resistance. Doesn't look too compelling for a short in my view, but get the nice clean trigger for the short here. This is the chart upside down, by the way. Just taking these highs. This is exactly what you'd want to see. It's just the wick through the highs, lose the level, some bearish absorption locally, and then move to the downside. It's about as clean a setup as you could ask for. I mean, I'll just say again, we are starting to see a little bit of a bullish structure forming locally on XRP. We haven't broken out of these local highs yet, but you know, scalping, this is a 1% range between these highs and these lows. Starting to claim these levels would be important. For now, we aren't. Just the early look of that rounded grinding structure again, but price would need to hold up above this level. Right now, it's not. Right, this would look quite good if we could just have that quick move through the lows. I want to say this as well. There are major ideas down below that we front ran on XRP. Taking these lows and taking these lows. If we don't hold this breakout, then no reason not to start looking to trade down there again. It's just important because so many people don't understand the idea of invalidation. And so the fact that I would be interested in taking a long up here on XRP, people think that somehow means that price is definitely going to go up from here. Super easy just to range and then come and take all these lows. All right, 5 more minutes, and I'm gonna cut this live stream. I'll definitely be updating in the Discord. Let me just look at the comments here. Someone said I hadn't been posting on Twitter in a while. I mean, I didn't post over the weekend. I went on a little trip. It was completely off the charts. So common for me to be off for the weekend. ETH is breaking down these daily candle lows. The structure is very different here on ETH, right? We don't have this other daily candle low. We only have one, and we're breaking it down. We do have the 4-hour structure here, which isn't irrelevant, that we are holding as support for now. But it's not the same as Bitcoin structure on the daily. But yeah, this is, I mean, it's unlikely that we get anything relevant over the next few minutes. Looks like we might be in for a little bit more of a choppy, grindy several hours here. So anyways, hopefully this was interesting. I'm going to be interested in this scalp entry on XRP, managing that locally if we get it. We have a little ascending structure here forming now that I should draw out cleanly, because it might just be one of those little clean trend lines that ends up being relevant, but for now, just interested in this, a reclaim, pulling the risk out of that trade really quickly, looking for continuation. If I don't get it, being willing to cut that trade really on the time frame I'm trading it on. I'm interested in the Bitcoin long. I don't think I'm going to check some more alts right now. I think I'm just going to end the live stream. Go maybe grab some food real quick. It's getting kind of late. And check in a little later. XRP. Forming a little range here. on the 30-second chart. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised maybe to see this setup come quite quickly on XRP, I suppose, but I think we've given it plenty of time. I'll just give the update on in the Discord. Yeah, maybe we'll sit here for a second. If we just see these lows breaking down, then I'll sit here. But otherwise not. I mean, technically, I mean, I'm interested in longs primarily on XRP into the higher time frame bullish ideas, but I mean, if you're just scalping this and you're even scalping this as a range, these are totally tradable highs and lows. But I think this range is this time frame is a little more interesting. Big 4% range now. 2 or 3% here. CB saying exchange advice, KYC gone mad. Well, I just posted in the Discord and Twitter a Mexc partner link. I mean, there's very few options right now for non-KYC exchanges. I mean, so Mexc is an option, but yeah, I've recommended that people consider the digital ID as an option. But yeah, eventually it just seems like almost every exchange is going to be requiring KYC, and depending on the region you live in, that can be a problem, right? So there's some really heavily regulated regions where your options are very limited for where you can trade. Crypto. But yeah, Mexc is a non-KYC option that is available still. I have migrated some of my trading over there. I've posted about the digital ID in the, and you know, some of this stuff you guys do just need to, like, I wouldn't say figure out on your own, but just look into and, you know, try it, do it, whatever. It's an ever evolving sort of space from a regulatory perspective and what have you. You know, I don't know. I've posted about that ID probably 4 or 5 times in the Discord over the last year, and you apply for it, you get it. Some exchanges accept it, right? As for KYC. So I think it's like pretty cheap, pretty quick. And whether or not you want to KYC an exchange with it and try that out, that's up to you. But, you know, hop onto Google, check it out. There's just only so much I'm going to really go into with all of that. Yeah, someone just posted it. I've posted links to the website and stuff, as you know, that some people are using it, and it's accepted by some major exchanges, like Bybit accepts it. But you know, some of these things, like for example, I always talk about exchange risk. It's like, just because I'm using an exchange doesn't even mean that I necessarily trust it. How could I know, right? There's been major exchanges that have rugged, and that's why I always recommend managing your exchange risk as well, which is why I use leverage. So you can keep at any given time a small amount of your available funds on an exchange, and if that exchange nukes, then you're not ruined, right? And you just can use some leverage to represent the size that you're actually wanting to trade, and not have to put all your capital on these various exchanges. Which, it's not to say that they're bad, it's not to say that they're good, it's just to say that they're unregulated, and or a lot of them are, and there is just big question marks that just can't be answered. And so all you can do is manage your risk. You can't put meaningful money on these exchanges risk free, and we just know that from what we've seen happen over the years. So with that, I'll probably sign off. I mean, maybe I'll retweet or post in the Discord the digital ID link there. People can look into it if they're interested in it. As an option. And then currently Mexc is an option as well, and you could look into that. It's a non-KYC option, but like I said, how long will that be the case? Who knows? A lot of these exchanges are moving to KYC. So I know as soon as I turn off this live stream, XRP is going to do this and Bitcoin's going to do this. That is just the typical live stream curse. So maybe we should just get it over with. All right. Well, I'll chat to you guys later. Well, here's the other thing that I'll just answer. Someone says, have you used the digital ID yet? It doesn't matter to you guys, right? Like, I don't really want to talk that much about everything I'm doing. Where are you trading? How much money do you have on here? What IDs are you using? It's like, that's not really relevant to anyone and none of anyone's business, really. I mean, I'm just saying, like, just think, I guess, you know, not logically, but why is that, like, what benefit do I have to going in, explaining everything I'm doing and where it, yeah, it's just kind of like, obviously I don't really want to talk about that. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, people use it. People use it and it's worked. And I mean, you can just see, like, Bybit was accepting it. They either accept it for KYC or they don't when you try to apply for it. But at some point they were. I mean, I'm obviously just going to sit here for a second. This is the 15-second chart on XRP, but we're yeah, we're just forming a little range here. Yeah, it's kind of interesting though. A little bit of an inverse correlation now. Bitcoin moving to the upside, XRP to the downside, as XRP flirts with these highs here on the daily chart. XRP BTC chart, kind of double top, triple top maybe. A little bit of resistance there. Yeah, somebody's saying check XRP INJ to $14. Maybe. I mean, it'd be nice to see these lows taken. Be interested in swing longs there. I have alerts set down there. Otherwise, not that interested. All right. Well, all right. Well, here I'm going to stay on the live stream because we're coming to these lows. Let's just go to the 1 minute chart. Keep an eye on volume. Looking for something like this. Either looking for a quick reaction, you might be cutting that trade very quickly if there isn't one. Trading it for continuation. This isn't necessarily the target, just that's the setup. I faked out the chart. I said I was ending the live stream, and so it thought it could have the move to the downside. But of course, these are just horizontal lows that could send us back into a range. So keep an eye on Tesla as well on the higher time frames. Kind of a horizontal retest here. All right, I'm gonna end the live stream. If these lows get taken right when I end, I mean, I've explained what my thoughts are.